Today, guys, we have the NHL 25 official franchise mode trailer deep dive. Usually when we do these reactions, I'd like to let it play through and then talk about little things here or there, and then usually go all the way back once we finish the video, and that's where I do my real dissection. Considering that this is 17 minutes and 44 seconds long, I'm going to say I want to watch it through, pause it when I want to make a comment, and that's how we're going to do this reaction. Right off the bat, I know they throw the menu at you, so I'm going to want to talk about that. But without further ado, I'm excited. 17 minutes from what I've seen, which isn't very much. It looks very promising. So
Hey everyone, this is Gern Sumel, Senior Game Designer for NHL 25. Today I'm here to talk to you about franchise mode. So there's a few new things going into franchise mode, everything from a brand new streamlined hub.
Okay, so I'm going to pause him right there. New menu. I'm just like looking at this. This looks really, really nice. There's a lot to kind of dissect here. So we'll kind of break down this menu here, but you can see the Ottawa games coming up and they have some information here. We got like Archer Seelov stats, Linus Allmark. So I'm guessing these are, well, it says right there, projected goalies. All right, cool. And then we got some more matchup stats here. You can see goals for, goals against, power play, penalty kill, and then the team leaders. And then also it has a little prompt here to click the button. So I'm guessing there's a bit more information. Maybe they'll show us. And then we got the games around the league. I think they had this already. And then you can click why it looks like to go into that. And also it looks like here you can press the right triggers and see even more information. So we'll have to see if they show us what that looks like. In terms of the menus here, you can see we have a little sidebar here that you scroll through to go through all your settings, which honestly, I think they're keeping it more simple, so we'll have to see, but I think this might mean faster menus, I'm hoping. We got simple things like next game, advanced day, stats central, morale, coaching staff, assigned scouts. So they call this the quick link. I guess this is all the kind of basic stuff that you need to kind of progress, and then we can see franchise information here. So we'll let this play.
Hub, box scores, game logs, and split stats.
Oh my gosh. So this looks like it's the screen for when you click Y to look at the other totals. You can actually see previous days and what the final scores were for that. So that looks all good here. Yeah, this looks really good. I don't know if this is a glitch here, but this Winnipeg logo is really dark. Already finding some things here. Not too sure what's going on there. And then looks like you could see the arena names and this and that. PPG Paints Arena. Is that like a new name? I didn't even know that was a thing. We'll continue through, get another screen. So this looks pretty similar, but I do really like the changes they did here with the color scheme. I think it looks very, very clean. The Canucks kind of graphic up here, I'm assuming obviously they'll do that for every team. Oh no, this is a full-on game-by-game breakdown. This is new. This is completely new. So the game logs, that's very cool. We'll have to see how long they track this. I'm guessing at least for the season, if you can go back and look at previous season game logs, things like that. But that's cool to see.
Stats, contract clauses.
Oh my gosh, they just keep whipping out new menus here. So other things here. So split stats, last 10 games, home, away, within division, conferences, and then totals here. That's really cool the way they're breaking this all down. I like when they let you have more insight here. I feel like it's fun to see. You can see here Patterson plays the best within his division. Well, at least points wise. That's all contract cool to see. What else we got here? Okay, so here's the contract stuff. I already see something I really like here. Oh my gosh. I know they said this was going to be a full on, like, what was it? Revamp. I knew this was going to be a revamp, but so far, really good here. Obviously, we have negotiation going on here. We have no movement clause. I'm assuming that also means we will have no trade clause as well, because that's different if you didn't know. No movement clause just means you can't send them down to the AHL or trade them, and then no trade clause is you can't trade them unless they have certain teams on the no trade clause that they allow. So clause structure. So they do have the full no trade clause, and then I guess they'll be able to add teams, or like probably like 6 teams that they want, or 10 teams or whatever. Trade protection 100%. So we'll have to see how this works. I'm not too sure about that. So in terms of the sidebar here, we got asking price, years wanted, obviously his status, interest in a two-way, no, and then you have your cap space, cap percentage. Hopefully this is all fixed. Obviously, if you play NHL 24 franchise mode, you know that the cap situation can get glitched pretty quickly. So hopefully that's fixed. You can see league interest here as well, top interested team. So I'm guessing thinking this maybe is something you could, I'm not too sure how you would actually gain this information, but that's there. So then we have team interest. So again, I'm not too sure what that means. Current offer. This looks like it's the player's interest, no? So it's like he's really interested in this. He's really interested in this contract, and then organizational. So maybe this is how much he wants to go to the organization. And then you can see a player request here, first power play unit. So that's interesting. I guess that's going to affect the morale. And then we have start negotiation. So I wonder if they're going to do kind of like a mini game like they do with the trade deadline, but we'll let this keep going. You also have offer contracts. So looks like you have two different ways to go about that.
EA updates, revamp player and coach conversations.
So the player and coach conversations, for anyone obviously that plays franchise mode, it's been awful. Everyone turns this off. So hopefully, I mean, it looks pretty much the same, but hopefully they rework this. At the very least, you could always just turn it off.
And some community requested tuning changes that we did. Over here, we have our brand new streamlined hub. It's a unique change from previous years. The goal here was to make less tabbing and surface more information for you as users to be able to get the most information possible to make educated decisions. So you'll see
he's just
a brand
breaking
new
it
quick
down.
links on the left-hand side here. Everything that's really important is showing up here. So all that stuff that needs to be done on a more regular basis is there at your fingertips. You'll also notice a bunch of new widgets that are on the screen. You'll have the projected goalie widgets. I'll show you the goalies that are about to start for that game, as well as on that right-hand side, a matchup widget showing you how you're matching up against the opponent you're about to play, as well as the conference standings, division standings, your team leaders from forward points, defense points, all the way down to rookie and goalie wins. And then you have your league leader stats as well. And then on top of that, we've added the ticker that's in the trade deadline mini game at the bottom, which will continuously feed you information as you go from screen to screen as well. You're able to access the calendar and then also tab through to go through all the various tabs that you would have had access last year, in addition to...
Okay, so he's explaining all this stuff. That's fine. Let him go over it again. But something I noticed here is they're kind of cutting between the screen changes, which I think they're doing because it's still slow. And if you just look at them going from like this thing to this thing, it kind of still looks slow, which is unfortunate. Just thought I would mention that.
New tabs that allow you to talk to players and coaches.
Yeah, you can see they're making cuts.
Box scores.
They're making cuts to try and make it look faster.
We'll bring up all the games that are played in the NHL. So all 1,300 plus games, or if you have a custom league, all however many games you've chosen to do. You can go to any game, not just your own teams. You can go to any game and select a game and view the box score for that game. I can view the events that are from that game, who scored, what penalties were there, as well as the stats for each individual player on both teams, and including the 3 stars as well. So you'll get a really good snapshot of every single game that happens in the NHL. And to feed into that stats motif that we got going on, we also have added new game logs and split stats for each individual player. So if I go into a...
That's kind of cheeky. I can't like confirm it, but it looks like they are kind of like I said, cutting frames to make it look like the menus are faster than they are.
Elias Pettersson here, I can check out his full career stats, and you'll notice that there's a new filter that's shown here, which is full career stats. Now you got game logs and split stats. So if I go into game log, I can look at every single game that he has played in this year, the standard stats that we track from minutes, shots, goals, assists, points, with date of the game, and the opponent of the game as well. So you can see how that player is doing against every single team on a per game basis. In addition, you can also see the split stats. So you can see their last 10 games, their home split, their away split, their division split, conference, and on top of that, their monthly and then their per team stats. So how they have done against Florida, how they've done against Edmonton,
oh, you can see per team,
Chicago, etc. And then lastly, we've also added an awards tab to the player info, and you'll be able to view any award that that player has won throughout their entire career. So it's not just the last 5 years. If you have Alex Ovechkin, could be something that he won back in the 2010s.
That's
all
great. That's an amazing
up on
ad.
The screen and for you to play and look at with throughout the course of franchise mode. One of our biggest fan requests is we added no move, no trade clauses to the game. In addition, we also overhauled our contract negotiation system to fit that in. So now you'll notice when you come into the free agency screen, you'll see an org interest bar. Every single player has a contract interest bar and an organization interest bar.
Okay, that's what we thought.
And those will now dictate whether or not a player will want to sign with your team.
That's awesome.
So if a player has a very low organization bar, you may need to convince them to actually join your team. Those two bars now dictate and change who you target in free agency, because it may not be possible for you to get the best free agent because they may not like your organization because of the taxes that you have, the market size that you have, your status as a contender.
They take into account the taxes in your market. That's crazy. Damn, they really went all out with this. We'll have to see how like accurate and good it is, but dang, it's good because one of the problems with franchise mode currently is you can easily exploit the free agency market, picking up guys, trading them if you really wanted to. One thing I noticed here is Drysdale obviously in real life signed a $14 million contract. In the game, he's asking a bit cheaper here. It looks like they don't quite have the numbers figured out, but I guess they couldn't really know that. And especially if this is a free agent number, you expect this to be a bit higher, but just a little nitpick there. But all this looks awesome.
If they want to be playing on a championship team and you're a rebuilder, they may not want to join your team. Now, you can offer them other incentives. You'll see promises on the bottom right-hand corner and player requests. Certain players will have requests that they would like to have, like playing on the top line power play or playing in the first line.
Oh, you can make
offers. You'll also
offers.
be able to give out clauses. So you'll see that you can give out no movement clauses, no trade clauses, modified no trade clauses. You can give out different structures, whether reduced, full. It'll change the number of teams that you can or cannot be traded to. So we've added a lot of depth and a lot of fidelity to the
that's how the trade
negotiation
projection
that
works.
wasn't there before. I'll go into a player that doesn't want to sign with my team currently. Give you an example of what I mean in terms of you have to persuade that player. Now, Sam Bennett here doesn't want to join my team. You're able to do certain actions to potentially win them over. So you can charm them. You can gain some organization interest if they take to it. So in this case it did, which is great. Now you can now talk about the contract or go into the organization and kind of pitch them on the organization. So if I go into here, I can now pitch him on the market size and the team status and persuade him into wanting to join my team and forego his expectation of preferring to play in a smaller market like Florida. So in this case, it's very risky to do so. It may negatively affect the organization, which may basically mean I'm out of the running completely. But if I do persuade him and it is successful, I can get him to join my team. So in this case, it's successful. And then if I go into organization, you'll see the bar go up to full. So now I have persuaded him into wanting to potentially join my team, which is huge. So he went from not interested at all to being persuaded into joining my team, and now I can go and offer him a contract. The first offer that you see here, the number of years, will always be what that player wants. You can go through and select different years. They may or may not accept a 1-year deal, so if you do select 1 year or 2 years.
Well, I want to make a pause here real quick. Some concerns I have with it. Okay, so first off, I think it's kind of, I don't know what the word is. It's kind of gamey in a way, which obviously it's a game. But this whole like persuading risk kind of thing, I don't know if I like it. It's very random, obviously, rather than feeling like, I don't know. It feels almost unnecessary because the player should already know what your franchise offers. I don't know how to explain it. I guess at the end of the day, we'll have to see how it plays, whether it ends up just being annoying, an extra thing you have to do, or whether like we do have fun with it. My overall concern with this is if we want this turned on, like this contract negotiation thing seems fun, does that mean we also have to have the old morale meetings with the players on as well? Probably. Now, maybe they did say they rework them, but this persuade type system still seems to be in the game, so I don't know how different they can make that.
I'm not interested in that, and just end the conversation there. But if you go into the 4 years, they will let you go in and start negotiating. So negotiate will try to make a more team-friendly deal. So the higher your organization bar, the more likely you can negotiate a player down in salary. You can also improve the offer if you like. This allows you to add extra money clauses, promises to your contract offer. So if I want to increase the salary here, I can increase it up by a lot or a little. So I'll add $2 million to the salary, but I can also improve the offer further by adding in a clause. So I can give him a full move, no trade, whatever it may be. I'm going to give him a full no move clause, as well as I'll promise him first line minutes. So he will more than likely now want to sign because I have given him the world. You can also table the contract as well. So if you think you've negotiated a deal with the player to the sense, but you want to try out and sign another player just in case, you can table the deal. There is a risk to this, obviously. If another team steps in and offers a contract to them, they may get taken and may sign with another team. So it's kind of a risk reward on your aspect of it too, whether or not you're willing to take that chance.
So I'm guessing tabling it means you can put it off by a couple days. I actually wasn't familiar with doing that in the actual NHL, but it makes sense. I'm glad they add that. That's not even something I would have thought of. Again, my concern still remains. I wonder if you have to go through that process with a player to do the negotiation, or if it's something that, you know, if you turn it off, you avoid all that, do like a more standard contract negotiation like on this screen. Again, something we're just going to have to look out
Sam
for.
Bennett accepts your offer because it was so good.
Because that's something we see a lot with these franchise mode updates, is they add features that on paper sound good, but they end up being tedious or they get boring after a while, and then we end up just turning them off. So I hate to say it, I think this might be one of those
I gave
things.
him a full no move. I gave him $2 million more, and I also gave him a first line promise. So he's now on my team. So I can literally convince him from not wanting to join my team to joining my team through the power of the conversation engine. So next up, with the addition of no move and no trade clauses, obviously when you want to go and trade a player that has a trade clause, you're going to need to figure out what team they can or cannot be traded to. So if we go into Aaron Ekblad here, you'll see he has a modified no trade clause, and you can go into the new contract info screen that shows you the trade clause, the years that are left on the trade clause, and the teams that you can trade that player to. So on the right hand side, there's a tradable team list. He can be traded to 20 teams, and there's 12 teams that he has a no trade for. So if I go to Anaheim or Boston or Buffalo, he is an eligible player for me to actually put on the trade block. If I put him on a team that he doesn't have a trade clause for, I would need to actually convince Ekblad to waive his no trade clause. So you can go into the proposed trade screen, select the player.
Like, I get it, it's like you're convincing them, but it just all feels like it's all luck, right? It's just a luck system. I wish there was a better way they could do it than just persuade. There's a 50-50 shot it goes through. That's always been my problem with this player conversation thing.
That you want to trade, and it'll automatically have you initiate a conversation with them. And you'll see that I'll have to persuade the player into waiving their no trade clause. If failed, which means I can no longer have Ekblad be eligible to be traded to the Carolina Hurricanes. The other way to get them to talk about their clauses or their options is to actually go in through the new franchise hub. So if I went into Matthew Tkachuk here, I have different options to have him potentially waive his clause or change his clause for the year. I'm able to get him to maybe give me a list of 1 team, 2 teams, 3 teams, or outright waive his no trade clause. So I'm going to ask him maybe give me 1 team that he would want to potentially go for. And in this case, he actually did. So now I can go into Matthew Tkachuk's player card and figure out who he actually.
I guess the kind of exchange here is you're risking lowering their morale in exchange for trying to get the trade to go through or giving yourself, you know, a trade option. But again, it's still kind of like, you know, the 50-50 thing. I just wish there was a better way to go about it.
Now you can see that he has a modified no trade clause, but going to his contract info, he wants to go to the Montreal Canadiens. So I can now add him to the block for the Montreal Canadiens, and then you'll be able to make a trade. The conversation engine allows you to kind of have a little bit of flexibility and how much you want that player to waive, whether it be a fully waive their clause or to kind of select a certain amount of teams. It allows you to pick a riskier or less riskier option to give the player still some agency as well.
You know, I will quickly mention, I know like I think they're skipping frames for certain sections like they did earlier in the trailer, but the menus do look a bit faster. That might be because leaving last gen behind means for whatever reason they can make the menus go faster. So fingers crossed for that.
Another new feature that we've added is our brand new conversation engine. You've seen a little bit of it in the no move, no trade, but we wanted to make every conversation feel important and have a meaningful impact on your team. So gone are the ice time conversations where players are complaining about things. It's now more of a proactive system where you are now assigning players goals or trying to make that player better or try to fit into your system as you need to. If I go into Orchinski here, you'll notice that there's 2 options for me to select from: season goal or on ice play. Each of these has their own subset of items that you'll be able to select through. For season goals,
This all sounds really good. I'm glad they're not complaining about all the stuff anymore. Again, my problem with this is I feel like it's going to slow down the simulation by a lot. So for someone like me or the YouTube community, a lot of YouTubers like to do their 5 years in one video, 1 year in one video. If you're doing this, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to do like an episode type series. Again, we'll have to see if this is something they could turn off. If it's something you can't turn off, this might be a big problem. Hopefully that's still there because it was before. Otherwise, those videos are going to take significantly longer to make. I'm going to have to cut out a lot. So just a thought I had.
Player development, something that in the past you as a user didn't really have a lot of influence over. Now you will with season goals. So you can select a season goal. You'll have 2 options of short-term goals. So these are half season goals. They're shorter goals and they give you less of a reward potentially. And then we have long-term goals, which allow you to perform a stat challenge, an award challenge, and then an X Factor challenge. These challenges allow you to give a player potentially an X Factor ability, whether it be a zone or a superstar ability. Award challenges are asking a player to win an award, and by winning that award, they may gain attribute points as well. And then you have stat challenges, which you
So I was going to ask the question a second ago. Is it all just for morale? Nope. Apparently you can get X factors. You can get attribute boosts. Again, if you can turn this off, which it might be something I turn off, honestly, good. But if not, this is going to be the type of thing that if you're micromanaging, you're going to be getting a huge advantage over this, the rest of the teams. You know, it's going to be huge if you're using this versus not using it.
You may ask a player to score X amount of goals, assists, or plus minus or block shots, and they will gain potential ratings impact onto themselves based off of completing that goal. Now, it isn't that it's a hard line, so as long as I'm close, he'll get some of that reward to passing, but he may not get the full amount. So it is really forgiving in that sense, but you do want to get as close as you possibly can to that marker to help influence that player. So in this case, I'll set a goal to have him score 40 assists, and then once that's in there, you'll be able to check out the goal in the morale screen as you sim through a season and you look at their stats and see how they're doing. Now that I've assigned a player goal to that player, I can also go into the on ice play and potentially have them change their play style or their position. You'll notice on the upper right hand side of the screen that you have something called adaptability. Every player has adaptability rating. This adaptability rating allows us to control how likely a player will potentially adhere to being able to change to a new playing style or a position that they play. The younger the player, it'll actually make it a little bit more easier for that player to be a little bit more malleable and a little bit more easier for them to learn that new play style or position. So an older player will be a little bit more set in their ways and may not be able to switch to that position or play style, but true to real life as well. So in this instance here, we're able to look at these 2 options of play style and position. I'll select to change his position. It'll give me options to be either straight up, change him out of left defense. I can move him to right defense as well. These are both persuades and they have different factors that weigh in. So in this case, I want to add a secondary position to lower his defense.
So one of the questions I was going to have here is, can you switch a defender to a forward? We know that at some point there's people in the Canucks organization who wanted Quinn Hughes on forward. You can see here, no, that's not a possibility. Would have been fun, but I guess it's something that would be pretty difficult to implement. How good should a defenseman be going from defender to forward? Who knows? My question for this is, again, is kind of like just a chemistry thing. Whether or not someone plays lefty or righty really only affects the chemistry. I would like if they played on their offhand, if it meant that they got negative attributes for playing on that offhand, that would be cool to see. At the very least, I know we have the chemistry here. We'll see if they talk about it more.
Awareness rating, the harder it will be to convince him. If I want to change his position, players with higher defensive awareness rating will be harder to convince. So players that are really good at defense, they probably don't want to move out from defense. But if the player has a lower defensive awareness, you may be able to get them to change to a forward. Here I'll ask...
Oh my gosh, he just said you can actually move them to forward. If they have low defense, you might be able to make them play for it. That is, we'll have to see how that works.
To change his position. So in this case, that persuade failed. In many cases, the persuade may or may not work, but you do have the ability to change a player's position and play style. It all has a multitude of different factors that go into it. Again, we really wanted to give you as the user the ability to have more fidelity, more control over the players to fit within the system that you're trying to build.
So
maybe they'll talk about it, but my question is, how often can you like try to change? Like, you can go and try and change someone's position, and obviously they say no. But the question is, can you go right back into it maybe a day later and try again? And then that kind of makes it a lot less risky. Or maybe I guess you could keep lowering the morale if you fail. Just the question I have.
In addition, you can also talk to your head coach. You can talk about your preseason or your game plan for the team. And these essentially are buffs to your team that you get for the season, whether it be conditioning, strength training, skill training, 5-on-5 focus, power play, penalty kill, video sessions. So all of these will have different buffs and debuffs. I've selected power play. This will give my team a buff for the power play, but also have a debuff on my penalty kill. So in this case, I got him to adhere to that preseason focus. I can go back in and talk to him also about the game plan that he has. So we can talk about preferred lines. He is locked until the regular season, and I'll get into that as well. Ice time allocation is also locked until the regular season, but this will allow you to allocate whether or not you want your team to roll 4 lines, 3 lines, top heavy.
So that's a really good change, that you can actually influence the coach and how his style is, because before that you would just have to go and find a different coach because they weren't flexible on it. So that's good to see.
Kind of manipulate that and have the best possible situation for your team. So now that we're here in the regular season, I'm now able to chat with my coach. So if I'm in the edit line screen, I can hit the Y button to go into strategies and then bring up the coach card from here. I can go into this meeting availability and then chat with the coach about their game plan. So I can now talk to them about their preferred lines or ice time allocation, as that's no longer locked. I can get them to potentially change those things. So in this case, I want him to reorganize or lock players into certain lines. I can now do so. I persuaded them into being open to it. If in the instance where it fails, you can still force the coach to go through this flow. You will lose morale as a trade-off, but at the end of the day, you are the GM and you hire the coach, so you are able to brute force your way through it. So in this case, I want to look at my forwards and I want to have my line 2 center be Elias Pettersson. So if I go into line 2 and center,
but if you're using this system, do you have to go through that with every single player? Like, how does that even work?
I can now lock in Elias Pettersson as the center for that line. Now I can also make his left.
Or is this might be a thing of if you have assistant coach edit lines on, maybe that's what this is all about.
I'll just put Jake DeBrusk, and then if I go into the edit line screen again, you'll notice that when I hit best lines now, those players should now get into that slot. You now see Elias Pettersson and Jake DeBrusk in that role. So if I move Pettersson down to the 4th line here and then I re-hit best lines, it will always lock them into that line. So if he gets hurt and comes back into the lineup, it will remember that and put him back into the right spot. So you can lock all your lines exactly how you want it and really help the usability for playing with injuries on. So you're able to have your lines.
I have a few comments to make on that, but we'll make it later. We'll finish off this video.
Do best lines in that manner. It is quite a cumbersome thing. So this was our way with the power of the conversation engine to allow you to actually lock in players into those lines.
Another feature that we added to really help the roster sharing community was the addition of draft picks to the player movement screen.
Oh my gosh, thank God.
Trade 5 years worth of draft picks in the player movement screen to keep up with the real world as you're waiting for the latest roster update from us. So in this case, I can trade Anaheim's and Edmonton's 1st round pick to the Buffalo Sabres, and then you'll be able to go in and see that Buffalo has Anaheim and Edmonton's 1st round pick, and you're able to upload this roster file to roster sharing, and then you'll be able to have others download it with the correct draft picks, and you can then start your franchise mode when the latest trade comes out and you're waiting for the roster update. You'll be able to make the adjustment yourself and then go into franchise mode and start your franchise mode if you need to.
That's a big change there, as well as we've added a few more elite potential prospects into the draft.
Okay. Apparently they added more elite prospects. I feel like they didn't really need to do that. I feel like the drafts and prospects in general were already pretty high rated, especially with like some of these custom rosters and stuff. But okay.
As you get later into later years, refresh that player pool, have the
into
overall
the later
be around the
years,
same round
okay.
as well. So
We added a lot to franchise mode this year. We had a lot of fun working on the game, and we can't wait for you to pick up early access on September 27th.
Okay, so that brings us to the end here. I like how at the end they're not even trying to sell you on the actual release date of October 4th or whatever it is. They're like, we want you to come pick it up in early access. You know, buy that deluxe edition, give us your money. We'll go back here real quick. So there's a lot of really good ads, but I do have a huge concern, okay? A lot of this sounds really good. The problem is, for the past years, we've been turning off the team meetings and all the meeting stuff because it's super tedious and it's super slow. My problem isn't that they tried to rework it and make it better. That's awesome. My problem is a lot of these features, if not 80% of the features we talked about, all involve the meeting system. So if you still don't like the meeting system, it seems like you're kind of screwed. The only thing that you're really getting outside of the meeting, besides obviously the new UI and all that stuff that looks good, obviously there's some repeating UI, just slight changes, but I think it all looks good. I'm not going to complain about that. The real change you're getting is the no trade clauses, which is great. Obviously been needing that for a long time. You're getting the roster movements and the draft pick stuff. That's all great. But again, everything else is integrated into this meeting system that I feel like a lot of people, again, and these YouTubers are going to want to be turning off. I think I personally might be turning this off, and that's if they allow you to turn it off, because now I don't know if you can even turn it off because they just rework everything into this meeting system. It's going to slow things down a lot, and I think it's going to make the possibilities on YouTube a lot worse. Now, obviously, most of the community isn't YouTubers, so maybe for the average person this is good, but even as someone who used to play this just for fun, I still think this is something I might have turned off. So that's kind of my concern, is that they integrated all this stuff through the meeting system, which I don't think they had to do, and I kind of wish they didn't do it that way. Like, to be able to change your lines and have it be where the coach isn't messing with your lines anymore. Let's say, you know, most of us, we like to make our lines, right? We don't want to have it be best lines and then have our lines completely ruined. It's great you can lock positions now, but it looks like if you want to do that, like how they showed you here, you want to lock Pedersen as your second center, well, you got to go through this whole conversation to do that. And again, I ask, what if you're not wanting to use the conversation system? You just don't have that option. And it's unfortunate because I think the answer was so simple, or they could have included this as well. If they really want you to use the conversation system, cool, but they should have an option for people who don't use the conversation system to still lock their lines. There should be a simple button, lock Besser into that top right wing spot if I want to lock him there. That way when I click best lines, they don't mess with it, you know? When I hit best lines, usually it's just because I want to change out a guy who got injured or whatnot. They still haven't added that, which sucks. It sucks that they implemented it in this way. A lot of the problems we had with franchise mode didn't just involve missing features like no trade clauses, not being able to move draft picks for rosters. Those are all great ads. The biggest problems we had with franchise mode, at least in my opinion, were the slow menus, which again look a little bit faster, but we don't know yet. And then once you sim a couple of years, only like 5 years, the franchise mode pretty much starts falling apart. The cap hits get all wacky, things get all broken and glitched. So the question is, were they aware of that stuff? And did they fix that stuff? That's going to be the big question moving forward. Honestly, I was really excited, but my feelings are kind of mixed. Like I said, and I feel like I'm repeating myself too much here, I don't really like the way they implemented it all through the conversation system. I feel like that's really disappointing. I'm glad no trade clause, no movement clause, all that stuff is in and they implemented it well, but I just think it's really disappointing that you still can't lock your lines and things like that. So I don't know. Let me know down below, what do you guys think of this franchise mode update? Are you excited? Do you agree with my takes? Disagree? Let me know all down below. If you enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, and until next time, guys, take care of yourselves.